Hello and welcome to all. The image of the killer doll or possessed by the devil has become ingrained in the collective imagination through a multitude of cinematographic works and novels. Let's quote for example the excellent book of the series Goosebumps, Night of the Living Dummy, or the cult film, Chucky. These dolls become protagonists in horror stories are legion, but not all are necessarily scary, and some border on the ridiculous. Yet there is a truly terrifying one, and the sight of it alone could be the source of your nightmares for weeks. Made world famous through the Conjuring film series and the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, Annabelle has not lost her evil aura and continues to horrify those who approach her. Unlike all other imaginary puppets, Annabelle exists in real life, locked in a double turn in a showcase in the Warrens' home. But don't be reassured by the fact that a rumor has just appeared on the social networks, reporting his disappearance. So, make yourself comfortable, because today we are going to discover the truth about this mysterious and terrifying affair. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all notifications. Let's get started. Already. It should be known that the strange porcelain doll we see in the movies is not really Annabelle, nor is it a true copy of her, because the real Annabelle, exposed in a shop window at the Warrens, is a rag doll, from the famous American brand Raggedy Ann. This franchise is so emblematic in the United States that the doll appears in several Hollywood films. In the same way, we note the cult E.T. released in 1982, where we can see several copies of the doll Raggedy Ann in the room of Elliot and Gertie. Raggedy Ann is in fact the central character of the series of children's books written and illustrated by the American Johnny Gruelle, and has since entered the American folklore. It is a rag doll in the shape of a little girl, with hair made of red strands of wool and often depicted, dressed in a blue dress and an apron. Nothing then disposed of the sweet and harmless Raggedy Ann, to become the cruel and terrifying Annabelle, and to go from being a pretty little rag doll to an evil object to avoid. How did such a transformation take place? And what is Annabelle's true story? To answer these questions, we would have to go back a bit, to 1970 to be more precise. Annabelle's genesis begins with a birthday, that of Donna, a university student preparing to graduate from nursing school, living in a small apartment with her roommate Angie. For this joyous occasion, Donna's mother gave her one of her old Raggedy Ann dolls, bought at a flea market, which she loved so much when she was a child. Very happy with her original birthday present, Donna had it placed prominently on her bed. Both roommates would realize that the rag doll was moved by clean energy that allowed it to move. In the beginning, they were almost imperceptible movements, then little by little, they became more obvious and apparent. Donna and Angie were able to return home after college to find the doll in a completely different room than where they had left it. Sometimes they would also find her standing on her two weak rag feet, leaning against a chair in the dining room. These very strange and frightening phenomena were not going to stop there, because the old doll was not only able to move, but also to write and communicate. Donna and Angie began to find messages written in black pencil on old scrolls that basically said, "Help us." The handwriting, shaky and barely visible, resembled that of a small child, and the pieces of scrolls were of unknown origin. The two young women had lived for several weeks in a kind of extreme paranoia but had not really sought outside help. This changed when yet another manifestation of Annabelle took place, this time with much more intensity and fear. Indeed, on returning home from college one evening, Donna found the rag doll sitting on her bed, with traces of blood on the backs of her hands as well as on her chest. The two roommates decided to consult a psychic to answer their questions. It was the psychic who explained to the two young women the story of Annabelle Higgins, who was the spirit of a 7-year-old girl, and who had taken possession of the body of the little rag doll. The medium also told them that Annabelle felt very comfortable with them, and asked if she could live with them forever. Waiting for the girl's sad story, Donna and Angie accepted Annabelle's proposal, and Annabelle returned home with them. Without knowing it, they had unknowingly allowed evil to enter their home, and they were going to deeply regret it. Their real misfortune began when Lou, a longtime friend of Donna's, who had come to spend some time with them, began to have nightmares. Lou, never having appreciated this doll, woke up in the middle of the night with the clear impression of being attacked and strangled to death by the little rag doll, which looked almost harmless. The young man was certain that his waking nightmares and panic attacks were caused by Annabelle, and had tried to warn his friend. But the latter, too emotionally attached to the doll, didn't want to hear anything. When Lou was attacked one night by Annabelle, to the point of having singular scars on her torso, Donna finally became aware of the terrible danger she was harboring in her own home. Before continuing, It is time to answer the question of the day, and today it is about general culture. Ed and Lorraine Warren are undoubtedly the best ghost hunters of our time, but how many cases have they actually investigated? Is it option A, 10,000, option B, 1,000, or option C, 100? Think carefully and write what you think is the right answer in the comments. Answer just before the end of the video. Faced with such a threat, the two young women and their friend decided to throw away the old rag doll, hoping that Annabelle would leave the house, but it was a lost cause. Unsuspecting that a demonic presence was hiding inside the doll, they took advice from an Episcopal priest, who sensed the evil power and immediately put them in touch with the Warrens. It is an old couple composed of Ed Warren, a renowned demonologist, and Lorraine Warren, a clairvoyant medium who had the gift of putting himself in a trance to communicate with the beyond. Between them, they founded the New England Society for Psychic Research in 1952, which at the time was the oldest ghost hunting group in New England. They had investigated thousands of mysterious cases before. Their expertise in the field was world-renowned and credible, as they involved doctors, police officers, and clergy in their investigations. As soon as they arrived, Ed and Lorraine Warren immediately realized the evil presence that inhabited the old rag doll, and seeing that the young women and their immediate surroundings were in danger, they decided to help them. An old couple of ghost hunters had indeed understood that it was a powerful demon. The demon was manipulating the doll to pose as Annabelle Higgins, the girl who died tragically at the age of 7. According to them, the demonic entity could increase its power and finally reach its ultimate goal, to take possession of the body of a human being. In order not to do this, the Warrens called a priest to exorcise the demon from the old doll as well as from the lives of the two young women. Once this evil was defeated, they decided to take the doll with them and keep it as far away from Donna and Angie as possible. As a result, on the way home, Ed Warren placed the rag doll in the back seat of his car and refused to take it on the highway. For he had a constant bad feeling that Annabelle, even when defeated, was still as powerful as ever, and that the demon inside her was still just as dangerous. His suspicions were soon confirmed, as his car swerved and stalled at every turn, causing the power steering and brakes to fail several times. They had come very close to a collision. Ed then reached into the back seat, reached into his black bag and pulled out a bottle of holy water, and sprayed the doll with it, making the sign of the cross on it. It was at that very moment that the trouble stopped, almost instantly. Later, the Warrens had a special case built for Annabelle inside the occult museum they owned. It is in fact a simple cellar, filled with esoteric objects often related to their paranormal investigations. They stored the rag doll, responsible for so much misfortune, in this special showcase, regularly washed with holy water, and where it still resides today. And since they put it there, Annabelle doesn't seem to move or manifest herself in any way. However, brand new rumors have recently appeared on the internet, reporting his disappearance from this famous showcase. Such news has not failed to arouse fear among internet users, who have all rushed to the social networks, flooding them with questions and crazy theories, trying to find a meaning to this disappearance. Many have wondered who could possibly have the audacity and strength to bring this ugly doll back to its glass cage, now that the Warrens are no longer part of this world. Thankfully, that won't be necessary at all, as Annabelle is still locked up in her tempered glass coffin. Don't worry. Some people are constantly making sure that she never gets out. So, what do you think of Annabelle's terrifying story? Did she impress you? Give us your thoughts in the comments. If not for the quiz answer, the incredible and very prolific couple Warren has investigated no less than 10,000 paranormal investigations, including such high-profile cases as the macabre story of Amityville. I hope many of you have found the answer.